Hi, this is Dr. Christine, and today I want to give the fearful avoidant some strategies on how to manage their intimate, especially their intimate relationships. But this does go for every single relationship as well, because it is going to be the individual themselves, the fearful avoidant individual, who is going to be doing these things. These are strategies that will help you to have more healthy and successful relationships in the future, right? Um, what I find is a challenge for the fearful avoidant. One of the biggest challenges is anxiety around what is going to happen in the future, what will happen in the future. And so a lot of it is going to be around uh, just working on really managing that worry about the future, right? And this kind of permeates every single area of their lives. They worry about the future and this and future and that and future, and so they're always consumed about the future and not really living for the moment. So I want to really encourage you guys with this attachment style. And remember, the individual with the fearful avoidant attachment style, you have both sides of the spectrum of the dismissive avoidant and the anxious preoccupied. And so you're going to have little pieces, bits and pieces, depending on your experiences in your past relationships with your caregivers, and also in your past relationships with other partners that you may have been with, right? These are these are things that you have to kind of look at and realize and recognize and become aware of why it is that you have this really strong thing of worry in your life about your future. And as you become aware of that, because in any type of change that we go through, we have to first become aware that there is a problem, one, and that we need to do things differently to change that. The things that we've always been doing, we have to do it different things, otherwise we're going to keep getting the same results. There's this thing that says if you keep doing the same things over and expecting different results, then that's there's a word that they use, but I won't use it here. But you can't, the sense of that is that you cannot keep doing the same things over and over again and expect different results. So the first thing, guys, is for you to really become aware of the habits, the way that you operate in especially your intimate relationships. Because I find that is more, you can't, most of the times you're married and you don't want to be, you can't just leave and walk out like you would with friends or with your employees, your co-workers. You're living with that person day in and day out. So this is why it is so much more difficult with intimate partnerships, right? So remember, your first thing is to become aware of what the things are that you struggle with in relationships. And I believe worry is one of the biggest things that you worrying about future, in your future, right? And so in order to get really to a place where you have really better relationships, you have to change things. You have to do things differently, right? So first of all, you're going to learn to live in the present, right? And how you're going to live in the present is really just focusing. You have to, guys, this is not easy. This is not easy because we all struggle with thinking about the future and all the things that can and might happen. The only problem is if you think about it, thinking about the future and worrying about the future is not changing your future. It doesn't change the future. It doesn't change anything. All it does is hype you up and you go crazy. You're just so consumed with this worry that it almost like strangle you. You're caught in a stranglehold and you can't move forward. So what you need to do is first recognize that fact, that no matter how much you worry, it's not going to change anything. It is not going to change anything. So with that in mind, there are some strategies that you can use to kind of, minimize, I will say minimize. You kind of totally get rid of it. Minimize worry. And, one of the practices that which is normal, you hear it all over the place, is practicing mindfulness. And mindfulness for me is really being in the moment, right? in the moment. I know it has some kind of little ooh kind of thing going on with it, but mindfulness for me is really being able to focus on what you're doing right now, right? Focus on what you're doing right now. Focus on what you're seeing right now. Focus on what you're smelling right now. Focus on what you're eating right now. A lot of times, we're doing all these things, but our minds are like millions of miles away, right? We're thinking about so many things. But guys, this is an art. This takes practice. It takes time. You cannot do it once and expect that now all of a sudden you're going to be mindful about everything, right? You're having breakfast. Really sit down. Really practice like eating. Okay, start with one thing. If you're walking outside, really practice looking at your surroundings, noticing the plants, the grass, the trees, the birds, the clouds. Being mindful in that moment, right? And so you're not so caught up with what might happen down tomorrow or next year or whatever it is. So being mindful is really just paying attention to what is happening in the moment. And another thing is, I remember when I was doing that in my doctoral studies, I remember one thing I did practice was when I was eating, because I eat really fast, right? I just gobble it up and I'm done. I'm usually the first one to finish, right? So I thought I'd practice being mindful by eating slowly and really just focusing on the actual food I'm eating. So I'm opening an egg and I'm looking at the egg and I'm looking at the shell and I'm hearing the sound it makes when I crack the egg and I'm looking at the egg and I'm tasting it and I'm savoring the taste of the egg or whatever it is you're eating, guys. That is just how you have to do. Be mindful. You have to be present in the moment with things that you are doing. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, be mindful with it. If you're with your partner, be mindful of her. Don't have your phone thinking about what you need to do tomorrow. Put down the phone and just focus on your partner. Your husband or your wife, sit there and just listen to that person, what they're saying. Be in the moment with that person. Hear what they're saying, respond to that person in a way that is best and reassuring and something that's going to elevate them and not bring them down. And just mindfulness is really important, okay, for you guys with the fearful avoidant, right? Being mindful and being in the moment. So the next thing is, guys, prioritize your self-care. Because of this constant worry, you're always just busy running up and down doing things for everyone else, because as a fearful avoidant, one of the things that happened when you were a child was that your parents, they were only there for you when they only kind of give you kudos when you did something right, when you did something for them. So you grew up with this thing, feeling that you have to always do things for others to feel valuable, right? And so you're always thinking of just doing, not really recognizing that you have to also take care of yourself. And so one of the ways I always, self-care, you always hear this, exercise and eat well, and those are good. And getting enough sleep and help to, because it helps to reduce stress. And you need to do all of those. Not saying you don't need to do all those, but that's not the only thing, guys. Self-care can also mean that you have boundaries. You have boundaries. You do not, that is one big thing with the fearful avoidant too. They have very little boundaries because as a child, their mother or father may have used them as almost like, that's the only time they got attention when their parents, maybe the mother used them like a teddy bear. And so when they're unhappy, they hug them and they cry on them, especially usually the mom, and they cry on them and complain about all of how horrible life is and whatever it is, and that poor child have to sit there and absorb all of that. So what happens is that they always feel that that's the only time they felt valuable. So they feel that they grow up feeling that they need to always feel like they have to give of themselves and reject and not really focus on themselves. So I want you to really be able to prioritize yourself once in a while. It's not selfish. Everybody should do that once in a while. If you feel tired, just go and sleep. If you feel stressed, just take a chill out and get out, get into a place where you can relax and decompress, right? You have to, but one of the biggest things, guys, all of that exercise and eating well and go and do your, get a massage and all that self-care thing is good. It's very nice. But one of the biggest things that I find that people do, especially with the anxious and the fearful, is that they do not prioritize themselves because they give everything to others, especially the fearful. They give everything to others. They give all of themselves to others and don't really take time for themselves. But boundaries is one of the biggest ones that how you can really practice self-care. Always have a boundaries. Know your boundaries. Allow, let people know that what you will allow and not allow. What you like and not like. Somebody speaks to you in a certain way, I'm saying, I really didn't like the way you spoke with me. Boundaries. And the thing about boundaries is that once you create boundaries, you have to maintain them. You can't just tell one person, because anytime you create a boundary, they are going to want to break it. Because usually what happens with a boundary, when somebody's always been doing something from way back, whenever it is, what happens is that now you're going to tell them not to do it anymore. Oh, what? But I always did it and you never said anything, you never complained, or all of a sudden you're complaining. So therefore, they're going to push your boundaries. They're going to push back. There's going to be pushback. And so you have to recognize that anytime you are going to create your boundaries as a person who's always allowed certain things to happen, and now you want to put up a boundary there, but you have to stand up and you have to say, no, 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 until they get it, All right? The next thing, guys, is to live in the present as well, meaning it's the same kind of thing as practicing mindfulness, really, to try and focus on what you're doing right now, just deal with what's happening right now. And I mean, you have to also, for you to really feel that you're not to really feel less anxious, is really to write things down. If you need to put things on a calendar to know what is due before, what you need to do first and prioritize that, then that is what you need to do. You know yourself better than anyone else, and you know that, okay, maybe if I am only focused on this one thing, but I have this other thing that I need to do that thing first. But remember, guys, that even when you're doing this one thing and you're thinking about the other thing, all it does is waters down your effort that you're doing with the one thing that you're doing now. Because you cannot do two things at a time. I mean, thinking about something in the future while you're doing something now, and it's not going to change the thing in the future anyway. So you may as well just sit down and focus on the thing that you're doing right and in the present, all right? The other thing is staying organized. It helps you to kind of relieve that need you feel to worry about the future, right? Because if you stay organized, you can put things in your schedule, as I was just mentioning earlier. Put things on a calendar, and schedule it. Because the tendency for you is that you will just start worrying about things that you know you have to do, even though you can do nothing about it. So schedule it. When you have it on a schedule, what you do is that you can say, okay, I know I'm going to do that at 2 o'clock, or I'm going to do that tomorrow at 5, or whatever it might be. But for you, at the beginning, you need to have a schedule and keep yourself organized. The other thing, guys, is for you to practice gratitude, right? Gratitude is a powerful thing, because when you are practicing, when you're grateful about the things you have, then you're not so caught up with complaining about the things you don't have, right? Because really, you can't change the things you don't have. What you can do is practice gratitude about the things that you have right now. Be grateful about the thing. And gratitude actually also brings in more of what you're grateful for. So that is another spiritual thing. If you're grateful for the one thing and you thank God for the one thing you have, He's going to give you more. He's going to give you more. Okay, so practice gratitude. As I mentioned with my other attachment styles, is also, you know yourself. Can you do this by yourself? You know what you can do. If you're somebody who is you really have that self-control to really do what you need to do to get the results you need here, then you don't need a therapist. But if you don't, but I find that a lot of people do, because they like the aspect of accountability that a therapist will provide, a therapist, a relationship coach, which is what I am, and both will provide. So therefore, having that person and also the value of a different perspective. Because remember, you've been living from this perspective of who you are as a fearful, avoidant, attachment style individual all your life. Perhaps you've been living from it all your life. And now you're just thinking a certain way all the time. You don't think outside of the box. You don't think out of that subconscious thing that you've been thinking from. And somebody looking at you can say, have you noticed that you do this? Or have you noticed that this is how you kind of think about this actual thing? Is there another way that you could think about it? So therefore, that person is like a mirror, but can reflect back to you what you're doing, and how that thing that you're doing is affecting the other things in your life that's causing you problems, right? So it's good to have a therapist. And if you want to work with me, please email me at leverageforchange@gmail.com, and just put in the subject area coaching, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. We can set up a free 30-minute consult where you will be able to tell me what it is that you're struggling with, and I can kind of answer all the questions that you may have, and I will be able to do that for you, all right, in a free 30-minute consult, and then see how we work from there. We can schedule payments from there. We can discuss payments, everything, all of that in that free 30-minute consult. The next thing is, guys, just remember, as a fearful, avoidant, attachment style individual, you always blame yourself. You're very hard on yourself. You're very hard on yourself. You blame yourself for everything, because as a child, that's what you did. What happened with the caregivers? They didn't spend time with you, or they only used you for whatever it might be, and you just feel that you have to work for love. You just always feel like you have to work to be loved, and that self-worth, lack of self-worth because of that, really just permeates your whole being. And so you're always not believing that you're good enough. You're not this, you're not that, you're not this. So I ask you to, I have to remind you that you have to be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. You are in the process of changing. It's going to take time. Be patient with yourself. And it's okay to worry about the future, but do not be so consumed. When I say it's okay, it really does nothing. But I know that it's like almost impossible not to worry at all, right? But when you catch yourself worrying, ask yourself the question, what can I change by worrying about this now? Can I change the future? No, you cannot. And that will kind of just settle you right back into some form of calmness, where it makes no sense for me to worry about the future because I can't change it anyway. So I hope you learned something from this, guys. And if you did learn something from this, some new strategies to really help yourself to have more healthier relationships, or to even have any kind of relationship, because it's very difficult for the individuals with different attachment style issues, traumas, that usually the relationships are very unhealthy, right? So please, if you learn something, and if you see that this could be somebody else that please share it with them, that they can also work on themselves. If this is you, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. That does help me. The more you like it, and also comment if there's something or something that you have that might be helpful, please put it in the comments. That you see as a fearful avoidant that helped you. Please, I would love for you to put that in the comments to share with others as well. So guys, please like it, because it does help with the YouTube algorithm for them to share it with more people. And it does help me to spread the word. So thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. I'm going to be doing the dismissive avoidant next time. So look out for that one. And thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting my channel. This is Dr. Christine. I see you next time. Take care.